All right, there are a couple of concepts that I wasn't able to tackle last class, so I'm gonna wrap those up. Let's open the same file we worked on the previous class. That was the Autodesk Basic Sample Project. If you open Revit and you haven't used a Revit since Wednesday, then thumbnail of that project should be available, so just open it. If you don't have this data set, or please raise your hand or let me know on the chat panel. I can share this file on Google Drive if needed, or I can point you to the address where you can download it.
Yeah, I don't have it, Cesar. Could
You
you
don't
share?
have,
No, I didn't have Revit yet when we were going through it last week.
okay. So I'll put in the chat panel the link.
Thank you.
So here's, oh, not, I need to send to everyone in the meeting. Here it is. To download the dataset, is the second thumbnail on this webpage is the architecture basic sample project, RAC underscore basic underscore sample underscore project.rvt. It takes a few seconds to download, and save it in a place you can retrieve later. Um, all right, there are, I think I want to focus on some of the modifiers, because before we want to start model anything, I think I want to let you guys know how to model, how to use the modifiers. And so we are in this project, and let's open the the floor plan level 1. All right, a quick review of some of the concepts we discussed last time. And so if you recall, there was in Revit, all geometrical representation, it's classified in 3 tiers of information. Remember which were those? Is the category, family, and type. And so this is the way Revit organize what is the content available for you to use in a project, and it's also how you access visibility controls within a view. And then the way we bring families into the project is that we navigate through the project browser. We find the appropriate category, and then we bring the type. So you need to click 3 times the category, the family, and the type, and then you drag and drop the element into the screen. I think this is not going to be, oh, what is this? This error. I am connected. Yeah, I am connected now. Sorry about that. Okay, so we bring a family, we drag it and drop it into the space. The other basic concept, I don't know if I show you guys this deck. I think I did. It's the three types of geometry in Revit. So the category, family, and type is how elements are organized in Revit. And the other one, the other slide I want to show you is how compile, yep. What are the different type of elements, which is a different thing. One thing is how elements are organized. This is what are the different type of building elements. So we have three type of building elements: model elements, datum elements, and view specific elements. A model element, it's information in the project that represent any graphic geometry. So model elements can be hosts. Host is also called a system family. So please learn that. System family, it's a host. An example of system families are floor, ceilings, roof, and topo surface. A topo surface and a topo solid, it's a host. The differences: topo surface is the legacy name of elements that represent the topography. So this is before Revit 2024. So in 2023, 2022, and since Revit 20, then it starts. And then in 2024 and forward, we renamed this to Topo Solids. But we enable them to live together because we realized that in the process of upgrading, we did not want to our customers to lose information. And so in Revit 2024, we support a new type of element called Topo Solids. And we keep the existence of topo surfaces, but you can no longer create them. So they live in the project. If you upgrade a model from 2022 to 2024, topo surfaces are still visible. You can modify it, you can change it, but you cannot create new ones. And both topo surfaces and topo solids are system family. And system families is a host. So then we have datum elements. And datum elements are work planes that represent grids, levels, and reference plane. In Revit, this is how it looks like. This is a datum element. It's a vertical work plane. Like this is a grid line. It's a vertical plane that define the location of all the structural elements and span from the ground level to the roof level. It's in the same location. And then the intersection of that work plane with the cut plane of the floor plan creates this projection line that is dotted dash dot. And that represents a grid. The levels are also work planes. All levels are work planes that define the top of the finished floor in projects. I'm going to open the west elevation of this project, and these are levels. Levels are horizontal planes that provide a framework for structuring the core of a building. They are mostly associated with the top of finished surfaces. Sometimes you can also create a level for defining the top of finished floor, or the ceilings, or the top of parapets. And in landscape design, I'm sure you use levels as well. I think the ones that matter to you is what's the ground level of the building, because a lot of grading starts by defining that datum. I have a question from Mafi. The slides, yes, I'll put the slides on Google Drive at the end of the class. That's my entire deck, so you'll have stuff that I'll show in the future, but you can have it there. All right, those are datum elements: grid, levels, and reference plane. What is reference plane? Reference planes are custom planes that we place on a floor plan to help us anchor some geometry. Reference planes are created in floor plan, in any projection view, in elevation, in section, and they are under the annotation category reference plane. And so the way you create a reference plane, you start a new point, another one. This reference plane, it doesn't have any geometry. It is a vertical plane that it's sections it's visible across the entire height of the project, and is used to snap or to align, or be used as a construction references for element geometry. So in other words, when you sketch, you always sometimes you draw this, construction lines that are not the finite lines, but they help you snap or create some framework for some geometry, and that's what a reference plane does. Reference plane is heavily used in modeling because it's think of it as a construction aid in the modeling process. So usually we use reference planes to create the outermost part of a building envelope or a site feature, and after creating that, then we trace it with the actual geometry and build the 3D geometry. So it's a really common element that we use from over and over. And then the other elements are view-specific objects. These are elements that we place on top of the view to communicate to communicate design intent and to describe the content of a model. There are details and annotation elements. Let me show you in Revit. I'm going to open the level 2, and this dimension, it's a representation in 2D. It doesn't live in 3D space. It's a view-specific object, meaning that only level 2 holds that representation. The tags of windows, the tags of doors, the tags of plants or plant areas are view-specific objects. They only live in a view, and you cannot. They don't have a 3D geometry representation, and they are conduits of Revit information. So they are just reporting information contained by the objects. This keynote, this text note with an arrow, it's a view-specific object. It only lives in level 2. And the same as this legend. These are view-specific legends and view-specific keynotes. So that's what keynote is. If you don't mind opening also the typical wall roof connector. This is a detail that it's made of two-dimensional components. Sorry, it's a combination of three-dimensional elements and two-dimensional elements. This is, for example, a true wall. When you select it, notice that the property window actually report that that is a Revit object. But the insulation bedding line, the thing that goes in the middle, that is not coming from the Revit model. That is a two-dimensional element that we place on top of the view. And that is called a detail item component. It's a component, it's a family, a two-dimensional family that that lives on top of the model. So that's this is what details are. Detail lines, fill regions, a hatch, for example, a custom-made hatch only lives in 2D. A 2D detail component like the insulation bath. And then text node, tags, symbol, and dimensions, those are annotation elements. They all live on top of the view. So those are view-specific elements. An image that you bring from outside or a PDF can be also view-specific. Oh yes, Zach, I just admitted. Thank you. All right, so this is how Revit classify the building elements. And that's Revit 101. Model elements, datum elements, and view-specific elements. And then the other one, it's the category, family, and type, right? I showed you this before. Category, set of common properties. A family is a collection of objects with same parameters of physical representation. A type, it's individual members of a family with unique parameter values. All right, so I'm going to quiz somebody. I'm going to pick random here. Let's see, Martha. When I hover over this wall, it displays this information. Based on the information you see on the screen, I hope you can read. What is the name of the family?
Basic wall.
Correct. Perfect. Let's see, Jennifer, what is the name of the type?
Oh, hold on. Can't zoom in.
Oh yeah, it's too small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me.
There are two places you can read that. It's from here or from here.
I can't see either, honestly. Taking my glasses off.
All right, any taker? The type name.
The wall.
SIP.
Wall.
Wall is the category. Wall
I see.
Category. The name of the type is SIP 202 millimeters wall dash concrete clad. And then R0, it's a subcategory of a type. That's not very common. I think roof also have them. All right, one more time.
Taylor, can I ask a question really fast?
Yeah.
On the sidebar, when you scroll down to go find your families, why is it not, to this point, why is it not listed as categories instead of, why is it listed as families? Because aren't those categories and then families and then type? So if you scroll up from there, why are they called families?
Is the library of families. And so the library of families is organized by categories. But But to your point, this should best be called categories, right? Loaded categories. Because these are
Those listed are categories. Just when you click into them, then those are the families and then the type.
when you click this, you see the list of categories. And then when you click again, this is the list of families. And when you click again, this is the type.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the library of components. I think that's why they call it libraries, but it's organized by category, family, and type. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was just confused why they were called. It was throwing me off because it was seemed backwards, but they're called families rather than categories.
Yeah, I hear you.
Thank you.
And then I don't think I explained to you, to this group, the free places to load families. I think I did to the other group. So I want to make sure that you get that information as well. One of the first things you're going to do when starting projects is to look for Revit content. And I don't know if any of you have visited the San Jose flea market. It's fantastic. But going and searching for families is like going to a flea market. It's like sometimes you find really good content, sometimes, and but 80%, 90% is just crap. And so having an eye on how, when you look for content, you need to ask yourself, what are you going to use it for? Like if it's for a presentation plan or for just realistic representation, you might use any content that it aesthetically looks good. But if you're gonna use a family for like creating schedules and to tag correctly and to fit within your line weight standards and your standard technical representations, then I think you need to be a little more careful and examine the families you're looking for. So I think last time we loaded some families. If you recall, I'm going to switch to the 3D view here. And we added these families, I think. And the way we went around it is we go to the Insert tab and then load Autodesk family. And this web page, this dialog box, give me access to the out-of-the-box library of components or library of families, which is organized by categories. These families here are not the same you will see here. All right, the project browser lists the families that are available for this project that, whoever started this project loaded these families and gave this template to us. So the Autodesk family library, it's made of a lot of different, it's what we provide out of the box. And as far as things you might use for landscape, the things are on their site. Bollards, trucks, direction arrows, fences, fire hydrants, and then all these subcategories: parking, utilities, and the other place you look like things like plants is under planting. These are the plants we provide out of the box. There aren't that many. They are very limited. And there are others like Entourage, which provide us like cars and people and RPC content. So whenever you see a family that starts with RPC, RPC stands for realistic photo content. It's a proprietary file trademarked by ArcVision. And ArcVision is a company that sells buckets of families for visual representation. Let me pull that here. I'm going to look for ArcVision, and I'll share the link if you want to look at it. So ArcVision has been around for many years. They started selling AutoCAD blocks back in the days. It's not this ArcVision, it's this. And so they sell a plugin for Revit and for many other software: Rhino, D-Array, Enscape, Arnold. And they are the owners of the RPC trademark. And so you can get high photorealistic content from here. I don't know what FDW stands for. Family warehouse. Oh, this is details. It has families and details. Render people, for example. So it has these really high photorealistic people for renderings. And so if you care about producing a super high photorealistic content and you don't mind paying, then this is a good source. It has a plugin. It runs on Avail. Avail is a plugin for Revit. But it's not particular. I mean, it's not particularly cheap. It's $25 the subscriptions per month, or $200 per year. And they used to have plants, but I don't find them here. They used to have a lot of plants. Lab work. This sounds like lab stuff. Oh yeah, lab work. Yeah, 120 species organized by botanical name. Each species has 3 shapes, 2 ages, and 2 seasons. And they are modeled in 3D. Here they are. If this interests you, I'll put I'm gonna paste the link here. So this one I think is very detailed, and this one is very accurate because it has a lot of it really portray the species you want to utilize. Let me see the description, how much it is. I haven't checked this in a while. $25 a month, all access. It's not bad, but when it says per person, that means it's a name account, and what that means that only that person is able to use these assets. And then this RPC extension, it's tricky because if the subscription expire, the asset for somehow stop printing. I mean, you can see it, but when you see the final rendering, somehow it doesn't render anymore. It like knows that your subscription has expired. And so if you're interested in this, you could like purchase one subscription assigned to a generic user, and then use that generic user to make your final prints, and you can keep it active for the length of a project, right? Okay, lab work in conjunction with ArcVision gives you great assets for plants. All right, the other freewares, it's this is the flea market. This is the true flea market. At the lowest end, it's Revit City. And this is a site that's been around for maybe 20 years. It's a community-based exchange of components, and it's not curated or maintained by anyone. It's a community-based exchange. And so, and it goes here. I think the only thing they've done quite good is organizing the content by CSI number. You have to create an account. It's free. And when you hit downloads, it will display their library of components organized by CSI number. And you can search. I don't know what this is not working. Yeah, you can search by keyword. And then it will present you with content that Revit users have posted for free. So here is all the components organized by CSI number. They have some on the earthwork. You find some families also on their. I mean, let's see if you look for trees here. Keyword. It's a mix of different Revit versions, starting Revit 5 all to Revit 2024. And for example, some of them are really good. These are families developed by a user. And look at this. This looks pretty nice. It looks even like it's created by a pen. There are others here as well. These are, and some of these are popular because these have 22,000 downloads. Australian tree, and what you see is what you get and what you print, and so it does have all these different type of trees, and you can go schematic with it, or you can go very highly detailed, like this type of family here.
Did you say, are all of these, do you have to worry about these being clean files or not? Or are these all pretty safe to use?
I have not used myself in projects, but if I was you, I would download this and open the family and check their properties. I'll give you an example. If you want to, this is what I would do. I would download this. It's already downloaded here. It's Jonathan Furlong's. And then in Revit, I wouldn't load it into my project. I would open it and inspect it. Open. Download folders. It's Revit 2009, so it's an old version. And then what I will look, the areas I will look, it's in the properties, the geometry properties. Look at it, doesn't have too much crap in the instance properties. And then the other thing I will open is the family category and parameters. Sorry, the type properties. This is pretty safe. Usually it has really nothing. The only parameter is the height in millimeters. Or maybe you can change the units to feet and inches so that this can be as scalable as needed. But in my opinion, this is a safe family to go. Let me show you one family that it's crappy. I'm gonna open, go back here and open, I was looking at it recently.
Cesar, I have a question.
Yeah.
So you're showing all this to us because this is what we would need to do at the beginning of a project. Like you would need to establish a library of objects, plants, detail, like, or how quickly could we like make a generic version of something and then from that point kind of edit it as needed? Or is this because we're now in Revit and we have to think differently about how our workflow is in general? Like we can't just be generic anymore, or
Yeah, I think as you start developing your pilot project,
okay.
you're gonna need to compile your building blocks of the content required, and that includes, a library of trees. How you do that? Either you have an in-house expert that builds families for you. B, you hire somebody to do that for you. Or C, you purchase it, or you hunt these components as needed. And so I'm giving you clues for the lowest denominator, which is go and find the components yourself
Okay.
until you develop the expertise to create it on your own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But if you already have standards in place and a robust library, and you don't need this, certainly I'm not encouraging you to look for content you may have already in-house.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We have nothing in-house, so
Yeah,
so everything
so-
would need to be built out.
Yeah, and I think this will give you a placeholder, right? And then it has to go like a quality control overview. Is this how we want to represent a tree? And under what kind of documentation? Is this tree suitable for rendering, for documentation, for does it have the parameters to make schedules? Do we include it in floor plans? I think that all those are key decisions when you start looking for the content and building your template. I was going to show you an example of a family that has been that is full of parameters. Like this one, it's a family that has a lot of crap. You see, Kobe, component, master format, version, author, library. These probably fit the scheduling requirements of another firm. And this probably, maybe some of these parameters resonate in the way you create schedules, include, is it wall-based? What's the render appearance? What's the company? And so if I receive this family, I will clean it. I will remove, these are parameters that you can remove here. Delete parameter. And it requires a little bit of understanding how families work, and also understanding and what is your output, how are you going to use this in your documentation, and what parameters need to be added so that it makes compatible with your schedules. And I'm going to talk about family creation towards the end of the class. So we review some of these concepts. I'm just highlighting and warning you about, the good, the bad, and the ugly of searching content online. All right.
So I have one question. So if you do download one of those families that has a lot of parameters, what's the concern? Is it going to just slow down your model? Is it going to destroy things?
The first thing that is a big no-no, it's if it has imported DWG. I'll give you an example. When I was doing this documentation for a project, a lab project, the Steelcase, which is a renowned manufacturer, started offering the entire library of cabinetry online. When you open each of those families, it was not created natively with Revit. It was the cabinet in DWG format imported in 3D space. So it didn't have parametric properties associated with geometry. It was just a standalone floating object that wasn't created through Revit. And then a lot of these imports sometimes brings CAD definitions that Revit cannot interpret. And so that's the source of corruptions, or the start of the sort of corruption in some projects. And so if you see imports from CAD, no, don't use it. Use something that is truly built in Revit geometry, and it's easy to diagnose. You know, you open a family, you select the object, and it will be called DWG import. And I'm like, no, not really. And then the other sign, it's yes, if a family has too many parameters, then the file size increase. And so by keeping it lean, then and if you're gonna use that piece of plant hundreds of times inside a project, then it accumulates. And so families need to be lean and serve a specific purpose. All right, the other one that I think I recommend, and it's free, it's Beam Objects. This used to be an Autodesk company, and we sold it about 4 or 5. We let it go because I think Autodesk understood it was not in the business of creating content. It's relatively safe. It's paid by the manufacturers. So manufacturers receive instruction on how to upload the content. There's some relative quality control here. And you have to create your account, and then you can search for like plants. I'm focused on plants, but it could be anything you need, like planters or furniture, or yeah, anything. So that's a good one. Sometimes it's overly detailed, so that's another thing you want to avoid. You want to make sure that if you download something that it's generic, in particular if you're working in public projects. And sometimes that means dumbing down the family, both geometrically and parametrically. So you delete these parameters that just add extra information. So this is Beam Object. I'll put the link in the chat panel as well. And I think the last one is for pay. I think it's called Beam Smith. It's similar to Beam Objects. Say you're looking for entourage elements, and RPC, some families. It's okay. So feel free to grab the links I share on the chat panel and save it somewhere, because those come in handy, in particular if you're searching a piece of family and you don't have the expertise to build it from scratch. So any question? These are sources of data, sources of families for your information. Okay, so one more one more topic that remain that I didn't explain very well last time. It's regarding the visibility graphics and selection controls. So in Revit, the visibility of views are controlled via visibility graphics. The shortcut is VG. VG is a shortcut for visibility graphics. And VG controls how which elements are visible in a view, and what are the different graphic overrides associated with those elements. Let's open, for example, the site plan in this view. Site plan. All right, I'm going to duplicate the side view. Just duplicate view. No detailing, just duplicate. And and this is a representation of a site plan, and it probably serve the purpose of an overall site plan, roof plan type of view. But you can tweak and change the properties of a view by accessing the view controls and accessing visibility graphics. So view controls plus VG, you have 90% of visibility of views there. So let's do an example. Let's say you want to represent the trees as green lines. The default representation of this tree plan, it's black. But for this particular view, maybe you want to do a presentation where the plants appear in black, in white. So what you do, go visibility graphics, and then you go to the category of plants. I'm typing P on the fly, and it automatically snap to the P part of the. And then I go to plantings. In plantings, I'm gonna do a projection override. So I'm gonna override the line work of the plants and make it a color green. The green is this deep green. Notice now all my plants are green. So this is true just for this view. And it serves a specific purpose. So this could be the site presentation plan. And you may want to leave that as green for this particular purpose. Say you want to switch off the shadows. There's a command here that enable or disable the shadows. It's this guy, shadows on and shadows off. It's the fourth icon from the lower corner. Corners now are gone. Right, I think just left. And say you want to represent the topography lines, the contours, you want to represent them as dash lines. But you can apply view overrides. So you go visibility graphics, then you go, I think it's site, side or topography? No, topo surface. Topography, primary contours and secondary contours. So these two subcategories of the topography, I can override the projection line. So I can say, okay, the primary contours are going to have a pattern that is dash. And so the secondary contours, a pattern that is dash. So these are subcategories of the category topography. And then hit apply, hit OK. Now all my contours appear as dashed line, but that's just for this view to serve the purpose of this view. And maybe, you know, the roof and the walls, they need to be grayed out. Or, for example, if you bring the mechanical drawings, the mechanical link, that's information that's not relevant for landscape, but you want to show it as a reference, and you need to tone down your consultant's files. And so I'm going to tone down the walls, the floors, and the roofs. And the fastest way to do that is by applying an override using visibility graphics. So you type on the fly VG, and then I'm going to go to roofs, roof category, and enable halftone. There's a dedicated column called halftone. It has checkboxes. I want this in this setting. The roof is visualized, but it's going to be apply a 50% gray. Let's go to the walls. I'm going to type W, and this is going to take me to the walls category. I want to tone down the walls. I'm going to go to the floors, F, floors. And in the column that's halftone, I enable the checkbox that says halftone. And here, OK. And now everything that is roof, walls, and roof, walls, and floors is now in grayscale. Again, this is only applied for this view. And so this is how we change the line weight values from view to view. And so sometimes, you know, I heard the comment, oh, Revit is crappy with line weights. And this is true for somebody who doesn't know how to control visibility graphics. When the process is a little complex because we need to understand how categories work and where in the list of categories the element I'm trying to override is at. Then there's an emergency way to do this, and this is the right-click override. Say, for example, you are about to print and you have no idea what's the category of subcategory of this. Even though, you know, when you hover over, it discloses all that information for you. This object is on the site category. But if you want to very quickly override this, you select an object, right-click, override graphics in view by element. And this is like, I need to make a change quick and dirty on this element, and I don't want to do it at the category level. So I select this object, and then I get these view-specific elements. I can override the pattern, the projection lines, the cut lines by element. And in this case, I'm just going to half-tone this. And now, now it's grayscale. So if you hear me, I say this is an emergency thing because a user can do it, but it's very hard to diagnose. So if this is not communicated to your peers and they're trying to understand, how this element became gray. They may spend a lot of time sorting that out because it's very hard to diagnose. My recommendation is try to go always apply override at the category level, because everybody understands that that's the proper way to modify view-specific line weights. But then the right click, override graphics and view by element, use it just in an emergency when you really need to. Okay, so my point here was that view controls and visibility graphics are the method to change the graphic properties of a view. And it's really very powerful, very robust, slightly complex because it has you have to sort and understand a lot of categories. But over time and more use of Revit, it will come to you. Any questions? There's a question here. Is VV and VG the same? Yes, it is. And Mafe, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question, Cesar. I'm wondering how it will be possible to make these changes in all the views. Like, for example, when usually we got like some drawings from architects, and then we gray out all the buildings and then leave like the dark lines for the landscape design.
Yeah. Say, for example, all right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate this site. And imagine I have 4 more views like this, and I apply all the visibility graphics to this view, and I leave it the way it's perfect for construction documentation. And then I have this other part of the project. Do I have to repeat the same process again? You could, but that's not the way Revit works. You can create recorded snapshots of the visibility graphic controls by creating a view template. And a view template, when we talk about visibility graphics, we're going to talk about this later when we talk about construction documentation, but I'm just giving you a preview. A view template records all the changes you apply to the view controls and the visibility graphics. So everything you did here and everything you do on the VG is captured in a setting that can be applied to other views, so that you don't have, all the views remain consistent. So I'm going to quickly do that. On this one, under view, I create a new view template. Create a template from current view. And I'm going to call this site view template. And let's say that we'll work on this and it meets some construction documentation standards. And then I go to the other view, the new copy. And instead of applying these views manually again, I just go to view template, apply template to current view. And then from the list of view templates that I have here, which is the side view template, I hit OK, and boom, converted again in the same thing. And so view templates are very powerful. It's our day-to-day sacred construction documents, graphic property definitions. And in our and in part, a big success of something created in Revit, that it looks good, it prints well, it has the right line weights, it displays the correct information for the type of views that we're trying to create. It's having very robust view templates that can be applied over and over from project to project. And sometimes these view templates, you can leave them in the Revit template, so other users, if this is a definition you're going to use from project to project, then create the view templates. You can save this project, clean this project, and save it as a RFT, which is a Revit a Revit template. And then that's your start of your project, and it will have all the view templates contained there. You don't have to recreate them over and over, project to project. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. There was other question, I think.
Yeah, I had one, Cesar. If you could talk just a little bit about how, because in AutoCAD, we get XREFs. We get a file, an AutoCAD file, basically, of an architect or just another consultant's file. How is the workflow in Revit? How are we managing and keeping track of their file versus our file?
Yeah, we have an entire class dedicated to that, so I don't
Okay,
want to
great,
touch-
perfect.
but yeah,
Okay,
some consultants are in Revit, some consultants are in CAD.
yeah,
What we do, if we bring the DWG of somebody else, we link a Revit file here,
I see. Okay,
and then I don't have a link to show, but I will have a demo later
gotcha.
that is multidiscipline.
Okay,
And then you can run a VG for that link.
mm-hmm.
And so inside Revit, inside Visibility Graphic, when you link something, there's a new tab that appears here that is called Revit Links. And that lets you access the VGs of the link file. And so if you want everything half-tone, it's just a matter of selecting that link and enable the half-tone properties in that remote visibility graphic setting. The same with AutoCAD. You can control how AutoCAD link display in here, but I don't have the files to demonstrate that, and there's that class about that later. So I'll go into that later, Bram. So
Perfect. Thank you.
other questions? All right. So let's see. Oh, the last part before we go into a break, we're gonna go on break around 7. It's about selection controls. And so I'm not sure, I think I showed to you this, the ability to isolate categories. So depending on what we do, sometimes in the modeling, in our modeling exercise, we may want to isolate elements by category so that we can focus our attention on just that task and switch off everything else. So an easy way to do that is to go visibility graphic and then click off everything you don't need. But that's a lot of clicks to click. There's a more intuitive way to do that. Say, for example, I want to focus on the plants. And if I just want the topography and the plants to be in the project or be visible in the view, sorry, you select topography, control, select the plant, and then you see this icon with the glasses. They look like my glasses, actually. It's a temporary hide isolate, and you isolate the category. And when you do that, everything is switched off temporary. So you see this big, bold boundary around the view, color blue, and a tag that says temporary hide isolate. That is just telling you, hey, for this view, I isolate this category so you can work and focus on this without getting distracted by the other elements. And when you make those changes and you want to return to the way it was before, then just go back to the glass temporary hide isolate and reset it. And then it takes me back to the other thing. So say you are now focused on refining the floors. I'm going to select one floor, go to temporary hide isolate category. All the floors in the project are temporarily visible in this view. You can focus on, changing the patterns or changing the thickness, reviewing it, everything, changing the parameters. And then when you're done, you go back to the glasses and reset it. Did I talk about this in the last class? I don't think so, right? No, okay. So isolate, temporary height isolate, allow you to isolate the categories of elements you select on screen. And it's very useful to focus on tasks. The other one, you see there's a light bulb that is next to it. This is the reveal hidden element. It's also temporary display. When you click that button, you're going to see that elements in the model become grayscale. And then there's a red boundary around the view with a tag that says reveal hidden elements. And so everything that has a red color are elements in visibility graphics that are switched off. And for example, notice all the grids are switched off. They are in red color because they are not needed for the representation of this view. And you see, select this box. This is the section box. The section box is the outermost boundary of the project that allow you to create sectional sections. Sectional section, that's redundant. Enable you to create a section box. And I know it's frozen. And so if I want to unhide it, you select this box and hit unhide element. And notice when you unhide things, things become gray, and that's a visual cue that now it's visible in the project. Other things that are switched off is the project base point, the analytical model, which is the planes that live at the center of walls. We don't need that at all for our documents. The project insertion point, the levels. So if we want the levels to be visible in 3D view, select one of the levels and hit unhide category. Unhide category, that's gonna make the levels visible. And this is exactly the same as going into visibility graphics, go to the annotation category, go into levels, and turn the checkbox on. But what I like about this is that it's visual and it's easier to do because you don't have to go and try to guess, oh, what's the category of this? So especially for a beginner. And so the light bulb, it's allow you to reveal the hidden element in a view. And when you're done, you switch it off. And then the elements you selected are now visible. And so this is the section box. Section box is useful when we try to model in context. I'm a big fan of modeling in 3D and not in 2D. Because when you do it, you actually are aware of all the elements from all the contextual elements that impact your modeling effort. And for example, if I want to isolate certain elements, let's say I want to see this railing, but I really don't want to see everything else. I just want to see the railing in context. So you select this railing, and then you use this element that is the section box. It's under the model section box. What this does is that it isolates the object with a boundary that it's a foot away from the surface. So let's try it. You select this, and then you create section box. And now I have the extent of that element plus 1 foot in every direction in 3D. And now I can just really focus my attention in making sure that it fits. It has the right spacing. It's like it's a good way to isolate objects and and move away from the distraction of the heavy 3D around you. And then when you're done with it, you want to return to the original full extent. Just go back and disable the section box in the property window. And that's going to bring you back to the full extent. Let's try a couple of times so that sticks in your head. Say I'm going to pick this wall, and I just want to work in this wall. I'm going to isolate it. Select it. Go to the selection box icon. It's this box in the modifiers. This isolate the wall with 2 feet of additional context. And then you can look at it in 3D in all its space, right? And when you're done, go back to the property of the view and disable the section box. Or let's say the driveway. Now I want to focus on the driveway, but it's very distracting to look at the other elements. So select the driveway and hit the selection box. Now I can just focus on modeling the driveway without the distraction of the other elements. And I pick at it and orbiting. Remember the shortcut shift mouse wheel. All right. Last item, and I want to talk about the filters. You want to, let's say, for example, you see I have a lot of trees here, and I want to make sure that all the trees here are the same type and the same height. So one way of doing it is going one by one, but that's too many clicks. You can do it in a single step by selecting all the elements in the project and applying a filter. I think I talked about filters before. I'm going to do a crossing selection. Crossing selections start from the right to the left. These are windows, enclosures with a dashed line, and everything that crosses that line, it's part of a selection. Notice that on the lower right side, I have the total count of 517 elements. You can also look at it here where it says common. But those elements can be filtered by category, and that is this icon right here that's called filter, or this icon, any of these. Filter by category. And so if you hit that icon on the lower right side or at the contextual tab, then you can access the breakdown of your selection by category. And so I'm going to select none, but then I'm going to go back and select just the plantings. I have 26 trees in my selection. And then if I want them all be the same tree, I can just say, okay, I'm going to make them all conifer 10 feet red cedar. That doesn't look good. Let's do another one. The hawthorn 25 feet. And I did it in one single click. I don't have to do it one by one. And in particular, you know, when we start modeling area, zone, or plant zones, don't do it one by one. I think these are tricks that will help you, like isolate elements, filter them. Again, the filter, select elements. You can check none and then focus. I don't know. Let's focus on the walls. I have 56 walls. And then I have all the walls selected. I can change things like the type, the material, etc. Change properties in bulk. All right, any questions? One more thing, these selection controls are here to allow the users to exclude or include certain elements in the selection of objects. I don't have the proper data sets to demonstrate it, but the first one, it says select links. This enable or disable the user capability of selecting links. So if this had a group a red X, if this has a red X, your counterparts, the link files, your structural, your architectural, your electrical models, they are going to be visible, but they are not going to be selectable. And that's a good thing because you don't want to touch or make changes to the location of that link. And so these enable the user to select or deselect linked files. It also works with AutoCAD. So if you have an AutoCAD file that has been in place, that is aligned with your site, that you have it as a background reference, you don't want anybody to touch it, disable the user ability to select links. The other one is, I'm going to skip that and go to the other one. Selecting the other one, disable your ability to select pin objects. A pin object is something that is a constraint that anchors something to the ground. I'll give you an example. I'm going to pick this set of trees here. There are 3 pieces of. I'm going to pin it. Pin it. It's available in the Modify tab. The shortcut is PN. When you pin something, there's a symbol of a push pin in the middle of it. And the purpose of a pin is to prevent mistakes from happening. And so what are things that you don't want to move, like structural levels or columns or grids? Those are things that are usually set on a project early on, and they should not be changed. And so when you pin something and you disable the user ability to select it, the pin object is not selectable. Look, I'm clicking in the middle of this pin object. I cannot select it. If I disable that, then I can select it, but it's still pinned. If I try to delete it, Revit get angry. It says, you can't. This object is pinned, and if it's pinned, you cannot do anything to it. All right, so this is our foolproof. This is trying to prevent mistakes from happening. The other is select element by face. You may, depending on what you're doing, you may want to enable or disable it. If you enable the user ability to select by face, for example, look at this roof. I'm just going to click in the middle and I select it. If I disable this, then, oh, it's still doing it. Well, it's in projection. So let me work. In 3D, you can do it. But let's see, for example, there's a floor here. The kitchen has a floor. When I click, I'm not picking that floor. I need to go to the edge in order to select it. So if you enable this, then now I can pick the floor directly from the screen. It's a little thing, but it helps you select things by face by clicking in the middle. The other is about underlays, and we haven't talked about underlays, but an underlay, it's a reference. It's when I have a view as an underlay of another one. Sometimes you can select those elements, sometimes you can't. If you disable this, it prevents that. All right, so it's 7 o'clock. Let's have a 20-minute break. When we come back, I want to talk about locations. And so the location is it's the part of the project. It's how we anchor a project to somewhere in the world. And there are 3 different ways of set up allocation. So we're gonna go over that after the break. And we're gonna locate this project with the address provided. So I'm gonna stop the share here and have a snack, stretch. I'm gonna play with my dog a little bit. And let's be back at 7:20, guys. All right. Okay, see you in a bit.
Caesar, you're muted.
Okay, thank you. I'm back, guys. Let's do for the second for this part.